Hey there, Cowboys fans, and welcome into this week's edition of the Cowboys Report. Tom, what are we talking this week?
Oh, let's see. We got some rumors, of course, because there's quite a bit of stuff going around the coaching staff.
We got a lot of news and rumors for you guys. You're going to love it.
And we're looking at team needs as well.
A lot of team needs. There's been a lot of talk about what the biggest team need is. Tom might surprise you with his biggest team need.
I will remind you, free agency is included. So if a guy's hitting free agency, that is included in the team needs, because what happens if they leave? Things change drastically.
We're going to get into it right off the top here. We've got news and rumors to get into. And first and foremost, the Cowboys are looking for a new linebackers coach, Tom.
Yeah, Matt Eberflus is taking the job with the Indianapolis Colts. This was kind of a strange one, the way it was not maybe officially announced. His wife had posted on Facebook a photo of them with a big old Colts logo on it. It's a dead giveaway right there.
So the thing about it, though, the Colts actually don't even have a head coach to hire a defensive coordinator.
What they do, because it's going to be Josh McDaniels. Look, this is basically a done deal. They just can't officially agree to it because of, well, McDaniels is still coaching as well.
Yeah, so the Cowboys are looking for a new linebackers coach. And Tom, there's actually more to this story because the Cowboys might have actually offered him a defensive coordinator's position.
I don't even think it was a might. They did offer him a defensive coordinator's job because that's what the Cowboys wanted to do with Matt. They wanted to keep him in line for an extended period of time. They didn't let him interview last year for the 49ers job because they wanted him to stay.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about this. Of course, let's get into our rumor meter. You see the stars up on screen, and this is what the stars mean. 0 stars, the Eagles Super Bowl rings. It's not getting to 1, people. It's not happening this year. It's fake news in honor of our 45th president. Of course, the fake news awards were last night, Tom.
Such a disappointment.
1 star, so there's a small shred of truth. 2 stars, the people are talking. 3 stars, it's pretty likely. That means a rumor, it's probably going to happen.
Yeah.
And then 4 stars, that rumor's going to happen. Whether or not it's actually news yet, we'll see. But 4 stars, Dez caught it. It's a fact. All right, back to Eberflus here, Tom. 4 stars.
Yeah, and this is that we again mentioned that he's going to go to the Colts, and then we also discussed just a little bit ago about how Matt Eberflus was offered the defensive coordinator job by the Dallas Cowboys, and this was what they wanted him to do. They didn't let him interview for the 49ers defensive coordinator job last year, and they said, hey, why don't we go ahead and offer you the defensive coordinator job here? We'll move Rod Marinelli into the assistant head coach role, and give you the job.
And let you have that year of development, setting up Marinelli's retirement after the 2018 season.
Oh, exactly. So we're giving that one 4 stars because that one definitely did happen.
There's another one here, Tom, about Eberflus. Did he turn down the job because of loyalty?
Yeah, well, we'll get to that one as well. And this was fascinating for the Cowboys because Todd Archer had originally reported, and we'll get to this graphic here, this is the next one that we're talking about here, with Eberflus, that he said he didn't want to do it because, I didn't want to step on Rod Marinelli's toes was the verbiage used in Todd Archer.
I think he just wanted to leave.
Which I do partially agree with, and that's why we're giving it 2 rumors, but there's a lot more going on here for Eberflus because, A, would you rather be the DC, and let's put DC in quotes because, let's not kid ourselves here. Marinelli was still going to have a lot of input on the defensive coordinator job. And would you rather go join Josh McDaniels at a coaching staff where you've got long-term job security, or would you rather stick with Dallas, which may or may not be a sinking ship as a coaching staff?
Yeah, I don't necessarily blame him for the move. I think the Cowboys made the right play in offering him that defensive coordinator's job to keep him around. So, that's the Matt Eberflus portion of the news and rumors here.
Section
3 news and rumors around Matt Eberflus, the former Cowboys linebackers coach. Let's move on to the offensive side of the ball. Tom, Todd Haley's looking for a new job. Could he be coming to the Cowboys?
Yeah, maybe if we had done this show yesterday, we would have more than just 1 star on it. But Todd Haley, folks, is not going to come to the Cowboys. We're giving it 1 star because I think there was some truth behind the rationale, behind the speculation from fans and people on Twitter. I actually, even if the receiver's job was still open, I don't know if they actually would have hired him. I think with Todd Haley, he was the Steelers OC and the Steelers offense was great. He's tough to get along with. Everywhere that Todd Haley has gone, he's been there for an extended period of time, he's fought with people, both players and coaches. So I get the love for Todd Haley. I don't know if that actually would have come to fruition, though, but we're giving it 1 star because it's not happening. We'll talk more why later in the show.
1 star there. There's a small shred of truth around Todd Haley. Tom's going to give it a little bit more in depth as we go along here. I see a lot of comments coming through. Keep them coming. We'll get to them throughout the show. Here's number 5 on our news and rumors roundup. Brice Butler, is he gone?
The rationale was that Brice Butler said, hey, if I'm only coming back if I'm a starter. If I'm not a starter, I'm leaving. Which he's leaving then because he's not going to start for the Dallas Cowboys. But the reason it's not 4 stars is because I don't know if Brice Butler is going to find a starting job anywhere in the NFL.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of the fans like Brice Butler, and I get why, and I agree.
I'm going to go through some comments here as you're talking, Tom.
I agree that he should have had maybe some more opportunity, but here's the thing. At this point in Brice Butler's career, he is what he is. And in both college and the NFL, he's never topped 350 receiving yards. There's no grand conspiracy to limit Brice Butler's ability that affected him at USC, at San Diego State, with the Cowboys, or with the Raiders. I think in reality, Brice Butler is a number 4 receiver who is good to be a deep threat at times, but he's not a guy that deserves starter minutes or 50 catches a year. That's just not who Brice Butler is. And not only that, everyone ripped Dez for his drops, and rightfully so. But guess what? Brice Butler had 3 drops on 15 catches. His hands are not great either. So let's not pretend that Brice Butler is this incredible receiver who would have saved the Cowboys offense. He's a nice player. I like him quite a bit. He's fun, but he's not a dynamic receiver, and he's not going to change the Cowboys offense.
I'll roll through the comments.
Not who he is.
I'll roll through the comments here, Tom. Robert Barnes, get rid of T-Dub, so get rid of Terrence Williams instead. Keep, he says Bruce Butler, typo. Paul says get rid of Dez.
Yeah, we discussed both of those in last week's show. Dez, maybe you could see get cut, but he's a better player than Brice Butler is. And T. Will's contract means he's not getting cut.
Jeremy says Butler was underused.
That's fair to say.
Estevan, keep Butler. He needs to be a starter. I mean, you'd have to put him as a starter over Terrence Williams if that were to be the case. And then one more here from Jared. Butler played the best this season. I don't know if I agree with that.
He didn't.
Because he was in very, very minor spurts.
And he had a lot of drops. Let's not forget about that.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we forget the key drops Butler had. He caught 15 passes and he had 3 drops. That's a worse percentage than Dez Bryant. I know it's tough to say, but Dez Bryant was still the Cowboys' best receiver. He just wasn't the Dez Bryant we're used to seeing with Tony Romo, for example.
Raymond says Butler's a great deep threat, but like DeMarco Murray, always injured. That's a pretty fair statement.
Fair
I think
too.
if he could
That's
be on the field more often, maybe we could actually evaluate this in a more rational sense than just we're mad at Dez right now, and so let's keep Brice Butler on it.
Who had that comment again? What was his name?
This is from Raymond Delgado.
Raymond, that's a great point. Thank you for bringing it up.
Appreciate you chiming in, Raymond. We're here every week. Like the page. And we will talk Cowboys, or chat Cowboys, because it is chat sports, every week with you guys. All right, Tom, let's get the people riled up a little bit more. We want to get you riled up here. Is Tony Romo missing football?
And we're giving this one 3 stars here
3
because
stars.
Romo himself said it, but it's a little bit deceptive because what he ended up saying was you always miss it a little bit. He just thinks it's kind of human nature. Also that he doesn't miss waking up on Mondays and getting ready to go to practice and taking the hits. So he does miss football, but this is not the I miss football, I'm going to come back. But he does miss it.
Yep.
He does. And I think that's fair to say, yeah, that makes perfect sense, right? Like, you spend your entire life doing this. How do you not miss it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And so Tony Romo is
not coming back.
He's not coming back. So the rumor is the rumor is not Tony Romo coming back.
No.
The rumor is Tony Romo missing football, and, well, that's pretty likely.
Yeah.
Tony Romo is not coming back. That would be fake news. All right, let's move on to rumor number 7 here. Cowboys, will they franchise tag DeMarcus Lawrence?
Brett, when we were in our pre-production meetings, I had this at 4 stars. So I'm like, yeah, they're totally going to this. But you brought up a very good point that there is a scenario where they work out an extension before they have to tag him. So that's why it's only 3 stars. I do think it's pretty likely because the guess here is the Cowboys work on an extension with DeMarcus Lawrence. They don't get it done before the franchise tag deadline.
Yep.
They tag him, and then before the end deadline where they have to sign him or he's put out under the franchise tag, they get a long-term deal done.
Yeah,
but he'll be with the Cowboys.
I think we can also take this rumor to exactly that. Will DeMarcus Lawrence be with the Cowboys next year? We would give that one 4 stars. He's coming back. The Cowboys are not going to let him
They
walk.
will not let him leave, no doubt.
3 stars there. It's pretty likely the Cowboys will have to use the franchise tag on DeMarcus Lawrence. He's going to command a pretty penny, and whether or not the Cowboys pay it with a new contract remains to be seen. So we're going pretty likely on the franchise tag. All right, how about another defensive end, David Irving? Will Cowboys let him walk, Tom?
So this is firmly in the rumor category. We're giving this one 2 stars because this is the best example I think I've ever seen for the Cowboys show of people are talking, Brett.
People are talking.
And people are talking that what could happen in particular is the Cowboys assign a 2nd-round tender to David Irving. Now, he is a restricted free agent. What that means is they can assign a 1st, 2nd, or original round tender. It's about $1 million less to give him the 2nd-round tender, but the Cowboys give him the 2nd-round tender in the hope that maybe someone comes through with a big money offer, they take the second-round pick, and they just kind of move on.
Let him go.
Dane Brewer said that on the Trust the Tape podcast today. I also saw Brian Broaddus mention it a couple weeks ago. So people are definitely talking here. And for me, it's a little bit, why? Like, David Irving's a good player, but I think there might be some concerns about the PED suspension, the injuries overall. He had a pretty significant concussion.
Pretty bad concussion this year.
So, and maybe just some general questions about his ability as to be a true three-down guy, because he's great against the pass, not so much against the run. And a second-round pick is a pretty solid value for a guy that you didn't put a whole lot into in terms of capital and value.
So let's talk with the fans here. Let's see what we're thinking in terms of the defensive end situation. Jeremy, D-Law has a great year in a contract season. The other three were injury-filled and below average, kind of like Mo Claiborne.
Tank has had such an interesting career because he had the first year where he was just kind of whatever. Then late in year 2, he really picked it up. And then year 3 was the disaster year. And then year 4 was this is what we thought he was going to be last year before the injury and before the suspension. So I see quite a few comments coming in like want DeMarcus Lawrence to prove it for another year. And I actually totally get that. But if you want DeMarcus Lawrence, you might have to just say, okay, we're going to give you the contract. I think tagging him and letting him play it out is a good idea. Tank might take some offense to that at the same time, and then you run the risk of losing him, or you run the risk of his contract becoming even higher.
Yeah, and you could even get into a situation where, okay, say he does go and prove it.
Yeah.
Then you're in a Kirk Cousins situation. Do you tag him again, make him prove it again? What do you do with it?
Yeah, I agree.
And so lots of comments coming in here. We get to some of them. Dude in blue needs to be replaced. I think that's me.
Oh, and I'm wearing blue.
I guess I'm kind of wearing blue,
We're both wearing blue. Mine looks more blue on screen, though. So.
Jordan, appreciate the comment.
I would like to know what prompted that in particular.
Yeah, dude in
what
blue needs to be replaced. So let's get back into the news and rumors, of course, here. Today's episode is sponsored by The Guild. Luxury lodging at the best residential buildings in Austin, right here in Dallas as well. Coming soon to Miami and Nashville. Visit stayguild.com. Use that promo code ChatSports for 15% off your stay. Tom, how many of these fans do you think are going to come to the draft this year?
Hopefully quite a few.
I hope a lot of you guys come and visit us here in Dallas for the draft this year. And when you do, make sure you stay with The Guild. Visit stayguild.com. Use that promo code ChatSports for 15% off your next stay. All right, here's the best one we've got of all of these news and rumors. The Cowboys to cut Sean Lee. Tom, 3, 2, 1. Fake news!
So this actually came across my desk today from one Cam Rogers, who hosts the Cam Rogers show here on Chat Sports, and I almost reached across the table and punched him. And he was like, hey, we're doing NFL Daily. Should I include Sean Lee? And I'm like, what? How dare you, sir? Well, FanSided and USA Today mentioned Sean Lee as a possible cut. What are you guys doing? There's no way the Cowboys are going to shut Sean Lee. You can save, I know, $7 million before making a post-June 1st cut, but under $4 million if you do it. And why would you do that? Why would you cut the most important player on your defense? I know that there are the injury concerns, but it's not like his contract is outlandish by any means. Like, you keep Sean Lee without a doubt. I was so mad when Cam did that, and I kind of felt bad because I did.
Don't blame Cam. He's just the messenger.
I did almost shoot the messenger.
Let's blame who we need to blame here.
FanSided. Well, should the Cowboys cut Sean Lee to keep Anthony Hitchens?
The Cowboys shouldn't cut Sean Lee to keep Anthony Hitchens, too.
Oh, my God.
All right, we're through 9 news and rumors. Tom is not feeling too good about that one. We're calling it fake news anyway. All right, number 10 here, Sanjay Lal. He's the new wide receivers coach. This
hasn't been officially confirmed, but it's been reported.
It's going to happen.
First reported by the Dallas Morning News. Pretty much everyone else has said, yeah, this is going to be a done deal as well. So it's getting the 4 stars. This also means Miles Austin will not be the wide receivers coach. Also means Todd Haley is probably not going to join the staff either.
Right.
So interesting hire. It's not the sexy Todd Haley name. It's not the known name of Miles Austin. But look, Sammy Watkins is pretty high on him. So
yeah,
I guess
Sammy Watkins' best season was in 2015 with Lal as the wide receivers coach in Buffalo, and he's continued to say nice things about Sanjay Lal, even though Watkins is now with the Rams. He hasn't been with Lal for several years.
Sammy liked him. Robert Woods also had a better year once he left Buffalo and once Lal was no longer the coach. So I don't really know in the end, what to maybe really give this, but he has a lot of experience as a wide receivers coach. I think that matters. I also think it means more for the overall staff construction. They're not just promoting the Scott Linehan assistants. and the young former Cowboys players. They're going out and getting outside guys to bring in new voices if they'll actually get some input in the way the offense is
Yeah,
run.
so it's actually been kind of interesting. We have a reaction poll up here. Go ahead and grade the Sanjay Lal hire as wide receivers coach. I'll let Tom do it here in a second. But it seems like the Cowboys coaching carousel has gone over the course of the last 2.5 weeks from, Scott Linehan is getting more power to let's slow the train a little bit. Let's pump the brakes, yeah.
It's been fascinating, and we'll talk about the defensive side of the ball here in just a little bit. And it looks to me like the Cowboys are not just saying, all right, let's just promote our other guys. Let's go out and get some other names and get more input on the staff and really kind of tweak some of the stuff opposed to just doing what didn't work last year, especially on offense.
Tom, grade the hire here.
I'll give it a B because I really don't know a whole lot about Sanjay Lal, and I'm not going to pretend to know, like, ooh, this is what a wide receivers coach is going to drastically change. Like, I think in the end, especially with positional coaches, I think the talent ends up winning out over the coaching staff.
Yeah,
except in notable areas.
I see a lot of B's coming in. Rudy's got a C. Jeremy says, who cares about wide receiver coaches?
That's why we gave you that. That's why we gave you the high DK.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know. Right?
Like for that one. All right, John Pagano, next is the linebackers coach. What do you think here,
So
Tom?
this is interesting because this came across from Todd Archer. He is going to interview for the Cowboys, and Archer didn't say which position, but linebackers coach is the one that makes the most sense. That's where Pagano has some experience. He took over as the Raiders DC late in the year, and he actually really improved the defense. Now, Pagano,
is that like improving it from 1 to 2?
Well, it was improving it
they
from
had
like
zero interceptions before he took over.
That's fair, but it improved them from really in terms of yards from being a bottom 10 to a top 10 defense.
Yeah.
And the Raiders defense looked a lot better against the Cowboys than we thought they were going to look. And I think Pagano deserves some credit there. He was a good DC for the Chargers. It's kind of unfortunate he's kind of been the victim of not picking the right guys to be the head coach with because Chargers guys got fired, Raiders, Jack Del Rio got fired. I actually like Pagano quite a bit, and I think that maybe you can have some Jack Del Rio input here as well because Del Rio and the Cowboys staff can be are somewhat close. I think Pagano as linebackers coach makes a lot of sense, but he's going to draw a lot of interest. That's why it's only 2 stars. He's going to have interest elsewhere. He might go somewhere else.
People are talking. Who else people talking about for the linebacker spot there, Tom?
It hasn't been a whole lot of names out there, but this is still very early in the search because Matt just left. So you're going to see more names, I think, on next week's show.
All right, one more coaching position to get to here. We've got our coaching graphic updated for you after this one. Ray Horton, the next defensive backs coach.
This could easily be 2 stars people are talking, but I'm actually giving it 3 stars because I think it's more probable not that he ends up as the DB's coach.
Yep.
And Ray Horton is a guy that Jason Garrett wanted when Garrett first took over. Now, Horton's had a pretty interesting career. There was a point when he was like the next head coach. He was the Terrell Austin, the Steve Wilkes as things sit right now. He was getting all these interviews. He was, I think, the runner-up for the Cardinals head coaching job back in 2013. Didn't get the job and was furious. Demanded to be let out of his contract. Then he went to the Browns and the Titans, back to the Browns, and his stock has very much waned. But he's a former Cowboys safety. I think he makes perfect sense as the DB's coach. I'll actually be mildly surprised if he's not hired.
Well, that's our news and rumors roundup here. And Tom, I've got one comment to close this out. Larry says, change the head coach and hire either Troy Aikman or Tony Romo.
I mean, do you guys really want a head coach that has 0 coaching experience?
Hey, as much as we love Tony Romo and Troy Aikman, they're not going to be head coaches, guys.
I get that it's Troy and Romo, but this is not the high school where you just hire the legend to be the head coach. Like, this is the Dallas Cowboys. You don't hire a quarterback with 0 coaching background to be the head coach. That's just frankly not a good idea.
All right, that was our news and rumors. Today's episode is sponsored by the Guild, new concept in hospitality located in Austin, Texas, as well as right here in Dallas. They've got locations opening up in Miami and Nashville this year as well. If you're taking a trip to Austin or right here to visit us, you need to stay with the Guild luxury lodging at the best residential buildings. And they've got this virtual concierge thing that's going to make you feel fancy, Tom.
I like to feel fancy.
If you need to know those bars down on 6th Street in Austin to hit up, just text them. They're going to let you know which ones to hit.
Oh, yeah.
StayGuild.com. Use that promo code ChatSports. All right, Tom, let's take a look at the offensive coaches here. The turnover that this offseason has had so far. Of course, Garrett and Linehan get that green check because they're coming back. Quarterbacks coach is still open. Tight ends coach is still open. They've got 2 new hires at wide receivers and Paul Alexander as the offensive line coach. And then Gary Brown, it was announced that he's coming back.
We still think it's going to be Kellen Moore, but that's not official yet for the quarterbacks coach. I saw a comment and just flew in, but
we should have had that today, Tom.
Yeah, well, there is no update though. Like it's just we're sitting around waiting.
People are talking.
Okay. What I would actually do with the tight ends coach is I would hire a veteran guy who's got like a year or two left, so that once he retires, you just put Jason Witten in as the tight ends coach.
Well, here we are
you guys
talking
are former
about
players. Give me Witten as the tight ends coach.
Here
that's
we are
what I
talking
want.
about no Troy and no Tony.
Now
you're going to throw Jason Witten at us.
But that's positional coach. If you want to hire Romo as QB's coach, sure, do it. But Romo's not going to come back for that job. He's got a cushy job at CBS.
Elam's saying Romo is QB's coach.
He's not coming back.
Xavier's not saying nice things about Kellen Moore, however.
Well, we have said it multiple times on this show, dating back really to the beginning of the year, and I think even last year. He's going to make a great coach. He's just not an actually good quarterback.
Yep.
That's where that sits.
All right, let's take a look at the defensive side of the ball. Rod Marinelli, still a question mark, Tom. It seems to me, I'd put it as 3 stars that he's coming back pretty likely, maybe even 4 stars, but there's still some questions.
I would definitely bet that Rod comes back, but they did offer Matt Eberflus the job to be the DC and move him into an assistant position, and I think it's a wait and see. Maybe you get this guy like Ray Horton wants to be the DC, and it's like, okay, well, we'll give you the DC job, and we'll let Marinelli go be the assistant, still coach the D-lines. But it's still a question mark, but it is definitely leaning that he will be back for at least one more year.
Eberflus is gone. Joe Baker is gone. Rich Bisaccia is gone. Lett and Jackson are still there.
It's
a lot of turnover this year for the Cowboys coaching staff.
The defensive side of the ball, too, is curious, and I want to see who they bring in. If they get both Pagano and Horton, I think that's actually one of the better defensive coaching staffs in the NFL. Like, I mean, you got 3 guys with DC experience on that staff. That's almost unheard of.
I think what's really interesting in terms of the coaching turnover is that with as much turnover as there's been, it's almost as if they fired one of the coordinators, and yet they fired neither one of them.
Yeah, and that's really strange.
Yeah,
it's not something you normally see.
It seems pretty uncommon and unique to this season. So that is the Cowboys coaching staff. Those are the news and rumors of the day. We've got news and rumors at least twice a week here on the Cowboys Report. That's Tom Downey. I am Brett Scott. All right, Tom. Big topic this week. We're getting into it. What are the Cowboys' biggest needs this offseason? So let's start with defensive end.
You seem to think that my needs list is gonna draw critiques from the comment section.
I want to see what the comments are going to say here. So Tom's team needs ranking. We start with the number 1 position in terms of need this offseason. Tom sticks with defensive end, which I believe was last year's as well.
It is, but it's also because of free agency matters. Like I think it's foolish to say, oh well, we just assume Tank Lawrence is going to be back, therefore it's not a need. I like to take things one step at a time. Once he gets tagged, this is really not much of a need anymore. It does drop down. But I also look ahead a little bit here. Like, let's say even if you bring back Tanks, Tyrone Crawford and Ben Samuel both could be cut. And at that point, you're left with Taco Charlton, Charles Tapper, and Dayton Jones. Like, so depth all of a sudden does become a bit of an issue, especially because Tapper can't stay healthy.
Sandra says, whatever you think we need to do the opposite. LOL.
Wow.
Not very nice, Sandra.
It's funny, though.
But appreciate you watching, of course, because obviously you're getting a lot of great information here. All right, here's the depth chart of the defensive end. Lawrence, Crawford has 3 years left, but you think him and Mayo could be on the cutting block. And then you've got the younger guys of Taco and Tapper.
Yeah, I think in the end here, as long as you bring back Tank Lawrence, you're in great shape in the end because you're going to have that. You have to bring him back. If he leaves for some reason, this does become the number 1 need because who's your go-to pass rusher? Yeah. We'll talk about David Irving here on defensive tackle because that's where he's mostly played. But Benson Mayo is not a great player. Crawford's more of a run stopper. If you do lose Tank, it's a huge need. But we do think he's going to be back.
All right, Tom, we get this question every week, so let's go ahead and address it.
Oh, God,
Adrian is wondering what's going on with Randy Gregory.
Just assume he's never going to play again. Like, if he comes back, cool, but we've heard nothing about Randy Gregory. He needs to get his life in order rather than focus on football. So just assume this is more of a Justin Blackman case.
Sticking on the defensive line, Xavier wondering, is Taco a bust?
It's
too early?
Too early. And he showed some stuff later in the season. He did finish with a handful of sacks. He's not going to be a number 1 edge rusher because you typically don't find that late in the first round.
Michael is standing up for Sandra, saying that she was talking to another commenter.
Oh.
So, Sandra, if that's the case, cool.
Context is often lost in the Facebook comments.
It really is. It really is.
Sorry about that.
Oh, she says I wasn't talking to you guys.
Oh, thank you.
All right, we appreciate
That makes
you
me
watching.
feel better. I needed that.
This sounded good. All right, before we get too far off the rails, let's get into team needs number 2. And Tom, you're sticking on the defensive line here.
Look, we have already made it very clear that I am madly in love with Vita Vea.
Wow, I wish you wouldn't have said it because commenter is madly in love with Vita Vea as well.
Who is it? What's his name?
Daniel and Jeanette.
You're my boy.
Well, it could be Jeanette.
Joint account. You are my friend's joint account right there because I love him. And nose guard is a massive need. Look, we mentioned David Irving. If he comes back, I don't think you need a 3 technique. And also, Malik Collins is a 3 technique. That's kind of more of the pass rushing defensive tackle. So you'll see some mock drafts mocking like a guy like Maurice Hurst or something along those lines. I think 3 technique is fine if you keep Irving and or Collins.
So, Tom, you're saying there's a chance of keeping that Michigan pipeline going?
Yes, I am saying that. But I look at nose guard, where Stephen Paea is retired / a free agent. He's probably not going to come back.
Yeah.
Brian Price is a nice backup guy. Richard Ash is a nice backup as well. Lewis Neal is an undersized defensive end playing defensive tackle. Like, they have no nose guard. So I think it's a huge need. And I think once they've tag or extend DeMarcus Lawrence, then defensive tackle becomes, okay, we got to get something here at one of those spots. I would go get a true run stuffer, let Collins and or Irving remain that 3 technique. But you could see the Cowboys say, now we're going to make Collins into a nose guard because I don't really know why. Because the Cowboys just love to play people out of position, as we'll discuss throughout the show.
Tom, the theme of your team needs here is defense.
It is.
Even though the Cowboys' defense, I felt, was improved the second half of the season.
You're absolutely right, but free agency matters.
Free agency matters. So in terms of free agency mattering, everybody, the Cowboys have the most amount of free agents on the defensive side of the ball. That's where they need to do the most re-signing, if you will. So let's take a look at the linebacker position here. Of course, there's Sean Lee, Tom. He does have 2 years left. Jalen Smith does as well. Then you've got Hitchens, Wilson, and Wilbur, which is where your depth really comes into play.
And we'll get to slide 2 here in just a minute. But it would be great overall if you had Sean Lee and Jalen Smith with no injury concerns. If that was the case, this really wouldn't be much of a need because those are 2 high-talented, high-potential linebackers, but how much do you actually trust them to stay healthy, Brett?
Yeah.
Exactly. So then you're left with your main backup being Anthony Hitchens, who is really kind of a starter. He's a free agent, and there's a good chance I think he leaves and gets more money elsewhere. Damian Wilson is whatever. Kyle Wilbur is a special teams guy. Justin Durant's not any good. So now all of a sudden you have Anthony Hitchens questionable, concerns about the health of Lee and Jalen Smith, and now you need at least one more guy that you can start, and you got to fill out your depth because there is not depth right now for the linebacker spot at Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, the injuries matter so much at that position for the Cowboys. All right, let's talk a little bit on the offensive side of the game. All right, guard. That is a position of need, definitely.
Free agency matters here because, yeah, you're going to have Zach Martin coming back. But then you look at the other guard spot. Jonathan Cooper is a free agent. Top backup Joe Looney is a free agent. Kadeem Edwards is a career backup with 1 year left, and he might not even make the roster. He might be a practice squad guy or whatever. So if you re-sign Jonathan Cooper, this need plummets all the way down. If you go sign somebody else, the need plummets. But free agency matters.
Well, even if you re-sign, sorry to cut you off, but even if you re-sign Jonathan Cooper.
Fair question. Look, they clearly miss Ron Leary. And I think that's fair because Leary's a really good player. And had it not been for the knee concerns coming out of the draft, he probably would have been second, third, fourth round pick, somewhere in that range. So offensive guard is a big need because as things sit right now, you don't have anyone at left guard because you just can't assume that Cooper's going to come back. So that's where I sit with guard being a need.
Any movement on the Zach Martin contract?
Not a whole lot on that end. I would be surprised if he's not extended. It's going to happen, but I think in reality, when Tank Lawrence started playing so well, he became the priority over Zach Martin.
Yeah. All right, Tom. Everybody wants to talk about this position.
Yep.
Number 5 here on your team needs rankings is wide receiver.
And again, they're a little bit lower because as things sit with free agency, they don't have anyone really outside of Brice Butler. And I've mentioned before, Butler is whatever. So Des Bryant, I don't think he's going to get cut. I think he comes back. Terrence Williams will be back. It's a question of whether or not he gets demoted. Cole Beasley is a cut option, as we mentioned on last week's Cowboys Report. Switzer's going to come back. Noah Brown will be back as the 5th receiver. That in reality, unless you cut Cole and or Dez, that leaves you with one spot to really fill on your depth chart. And I think you could definitely see the Cowboys spend a first or second or third, worst case, round pick on a receiver in this year's draft. So, look, you got some guys on futures deals that, whatever. We saw Lance Norm botch a punt in the preseason. KD Cannon is fast, but he kept getting cut by a bunch of teams because he's a head case. So
yeah, KD Cannon's such an interesting.
He's a name.
He was paid by the Niners as an undrafted free agent, which was pretty unique. And he got cut within a matter of days.
Because the Niners were like, hey, if you're not going to show up and try, see ya. We don't need you, which was a big move by Kyle Shanahan.
So see a lot of comments coming through, quote, trade Dez. Trading Dez is probably the least likely thing that would happen.
I mean, who wants that contract?
Yeah.
Like, I get that. Ooh, the Dez has the upside of being the Dez Bryant we all know and have loved, but who's going to take on that contract? Like, the Niners could, but they could also be like, it's just too pricey for a guy that's really not playing like a true number one wide receiver.
All right, reaction poll time. How should the Cowboys upgrade at wide receiver? Give it a heart for a first-round pick, wow face for a cheap free agent, which probably doesn't do you too much. Maybe that's your Brice Butler option. Expensive free agent, ha-ha face. Jarvis Landry, anybody? I'm sure, just trying to get some comments going. All right, and then a like for a mid-round pick. Tom, first-round pick, who are you looking at? Calvin Ridley?
If you're going receiver,
or is he gone?
You would love if Calvin Ridley's on the board. If Ridley's on the board, I think you absolutely do it because he is exactly what Dak Prescott needs. He's not a Dez Bryant type. He's not a Mike Evans type, but he gets open.
Yep.
And that's what you want to see if you're the Cowboys. You need a guy who gets open on his own rather than jump balls or gets thrown open. That's not really where Dak thrives. Ridley would be great. I'd keep an eye on Christian Kirk.
I like the Texas A&M product.
He'd be a dynamic option. I also think in the end, especially if a guy like Vita Vea is there or a linebacker that the Cowboys love, you could see them wait till like round 2 on a receiver and look in that direction.
And if you're in
find some guys there.
Yeah, if you're in round 2, you're thinking Michael Gallup from Colorado State.
I would like Gallup. He's a little similar to Dez in the sense that he's not always going to separate really well, but he is going to be a guy who you'll like because he makes a bunch of highlight plays, and I know he is a blast to watch. It's a great class if you need a number 2 receiver, and I think that's what the Cowboys are going to approach what they need this offseason at receiver. They're going to keep Dez at the 1, and they're going to go out and get a better version of Terrence Williams.
All right, that's 5 teams.
Anthony Miller, Memphis. Keep an eye on him. He's good.
Yeah, I saw a comment actually about Anthony Miller.
Commenter's on point today. I like it.
Love you guys. All right, number 6 on the team needs safety.
How much can I rant on the secondary right now?
Yeah, a little bit. There's been quite a few comments about it, so I think that people want to talk about safety.
For starters, the Cowboys don't know what to do with Byron Jones, and it's so frustrating. Now, he does have 2 years left, but an asterisk on that. One of those is his extra year for being a first-round pick as a team option. Haven't picked it up yet. That'll be decided later in the year. So we assume they'll pick it up, and they actually might not because it's kind of expensive for a safety position. But they moved to corner, but we'll get to that later. Jeff Heath, we know my thoughts on Jeff Heath. If you've watched the show before, he's a nice number 3 safety. He's not a starter. Xavier Woods continues to play out of position at slot corner because the Cowboys just love to take guys as a safety and move them somewhere else or vice versa. He's a safety. I would like an impact safety, and I think what you might see the Cowboys do is either A, kind of ignore the position altogether, B, go big. It's kind of a go big or go home right now for the Cowboys at safety unless they move Byron Jones. And I think in the end, they're going to keep trying to put Byron Jones at strong safety, let Xavier Woods do whatever he decides to do, and then have Jeff Heath be the free safety for some reason because I don't really know why he's a free safety. He should be in the box, but Xavier Woods a free safety. But that's beside the point. I'm getting off topic. I think in the end, it's impact safety or bust. I wouldn't mind a guy like Derwin James in round 1 if he's there. Because I do think Derwin is actually more of a strong safety right now, but he's going to be the impact guy you want.
Give Tom a follow at WhatGoingDowney on Twitter. He will give you his thoughts regarding the Cowboys secondary, much more than I'm going to let him today. Yeah. We've talked about it just about every week on the Cowboys Report.
Not every week.
And I like to give him a hard time about it. All right, let's go to number 7 here, offensive tackle, because, well, we saw what happens when Tyron Smith gets hurt.
Look, you need depth, man. Like, that's where we're at with offensive tackle, and it's Tyron Smith is still signed for 6 years, by the way, which is kind of insane to think about.
Crazy.
Like, no one has that type of deal left on him in the NFL. Lael Collins is under contract for 2 more years. Those are your starters, but you got to get a new swing tackle. Chaz Green was horrendous. I think he gets cut, and Byron Bell, frankly, wasn't that much better. You have got to find a new swing tackle. I don't care if that's a veteran free agent or even like a round 3 or 4 pick. You got to spend it on somebody this year because it is not working with your depth.
You know, Tom, you're not exactly going to mince your words here.
No.
I'm going to quote you as
Yeah.
soon as we get the graphic up, and that's Byron Bell and Chaz Green are awful.
Yeah, they are not good. Like I don't think anyone in the comments is gonna disagree with that. We saw them play all year.
Yeah.
Byron Bell is a guard, and they put him at left tackle. Like Chaz Green, I don't know what happened to Chaz Green because he was actually okay early in his career, and then it just all fell apart on him. And I think at this point his confidence is shattered. I would be surprised if he made the 53-man roster next year.
All right, let's go back to the defensive side of the ball. And Tom, you're sticking in the secondary with another cornerback as team need number 8.
These are definitely getting into kind of more of the depth and go big or go home type needs with safety and corner. I am a huge fan of Chidobe Awuzie. I love Jordan Lewis. Those are your 2 long-term starters. When in reality, you have 3 starters at cornerback.
Yeah.
That's kind of what teams do. Nickel is so prevalent in the NFL. Anthony Brown, I continue to say is better as a 4th corner. I'm kind of concerned the Cowboys are going to say, nah, he can be our 3rd. It's fine. And I don't know if I like that too much. You got Orlando Scandrick, who I am very confident is going to be cut. I'll be stunned if he's on the roster. He's either going to be cut or traded. His contract is really not all that bad. And then you got some other guys on the depth chart. Benny Benwickery is a free agent. Marquez White, I like. He's a bigger corner, but he kind of taps out, I think, as a number 2 in the best case scenario. I like Duke Thomas, but he was hurt all last year. He's not a guy that you want to count on. So what I would like to see happen, Brett, and this is just me talking.
We're letting you talk about the secondary again.
Thank you. I would move Byron Jones to corner because that's what he was at UConn. He played some corner. He was drafted as a cornerback / free safety, and the Cowboys made him a strong safety, and I don't really know why. And frankly, he's your best cover man. Like he can stop tight ends. He can hold up against receivers too. And Byron Jones in the end is a bigger corner. That's what I would like to see with the Cowboys. Awuzie is one outside guy. We've seen Jordan Lewis be able to play as an outside corner, but his best position is in the slot. So if you can spend an early round pick or just move Byron Jones down there, then you've got Awuzie, a big corner, and Jordan Lewis in the slot. Anthony Brown as your dime corner. That's a really good cornerback class and a young one too.
A lot of people agree with the Byron Jones to corner. Cowboys, of course, without a defensive backs coach right now, so could that matter?
Yes and no, and I think I'm curious who they end up hiring in the end because it could impact what they kind of target for in corner if they want to go to more man or stick with more zone. I do have to mention this though, Brett. Wayne in the comments section says Jones is too slow for corner. The dude ran a 4.36 at the combine.
Hey-o.
He's the fastest player on the Cowboys. Like,
and don't give me that Ryan Switzer. Ryan Switzer. It's not Ryan Switzer.
Ryan Switzer is quick, not fast. Byron Jones is not too slow for corner.
There you go. All right. Number 9 on the team needs rankings of this offseason. Running back, need a little bit of depth there.
Or depth. This is solely a depth pick. You're not going to spend a high pick on a halfback because Zeke's not going anywhere. Alfred Morris, though, might be gone. Mm-hmm. He's a free agent. He might try and get some more work because he signed with the Cowboys before they drafted Zeke. Don't forget that. And then he's like, oh, crap, now I'm a backup again.
And we've kind of gotten on the Rod Smith bandwagon.
I like Rod Smith.
More than Alfred anyway.
Look, if you're not going to...
Hey, Tom, do you remember the people that wanted Alfred Morris to start over Ezekiel Elliott last year?
God, that was fun time. Or McFadden.
You guys are silly.
Yeah, all right. But, look, when you sit here with the team needs in the end, I think if you do anything, you add a young third round or a young draft pick. And they almost took Donnell Pumphrey because they wanted a return guy who could also play halfback.
Yeah. So, Tom, in terms of silliness, and before we unveil our 10th team need, I'm seeing a lot of discussion on whether or not Dak Prescott is the issue. Someone definitely came in and saying get rid of Dak. There have been a lot of backers of Dak, and we here on the Cowboys Report, me and Tom, are backers of Dak as well. Dak Prescott is not the problem. So, without further ado, number 10 on our team needs of this offseason, tight end.
This is, again, I put this low because I don't think Dallas is going to address this position. Jason Witten, technically speaking, has 4 years left on his contract. And he's not going to play all 4 years, so eventually retire, and then it's not going to be any dead money. I don't think James Hannah's going to be back. I think he'll be cut. Jeff Swaim I like as a backup. And I do think, by the way, Brett, that Rico Gathers is going to get his shot this year to prove that he can be a long-term option at tight end. The Cowboys didn't take a tight end in last year's loaded class. I think that they're not going to take one early this year. That's where I kind of sit with tight end. You could see a draft pick here, but I'd actually be a little bit surprised if they passed on one last year.
Yeah, I mean, Rico Gathers is going to get his shot. You know, we saw him in the preseason, a lot of hype. Then there was the injury, and whether or not he was an IR stash remains to be seen,
Which
of course.
Kind of was, kind of wasn't.
Yep. So he's going to get his chance, and with Jason Witten there to mentor, I think it's a good year to do that.
It is, and I think if Rico doesn't take a big step forward, then next year you look at tight end, you focus on other needs because you're okay right now with Jason Witten as your starter and Swaim as your backup.
All right, those are our team needs this offseason. Recap here. At number 1, you've got defensive end, Tom, sticking on defense, defensive tackle, linebacker, and then you move over to the offensive side of the ball with a left guard, wide receiver, and then we move back over into the secondary with safety. Maybe another left tackle as some depth.
Give me the swing tackle, baby. The
Cornerback,
backup.
running back, and tight end in the depth section of the needs. I am Brett Scott. This is Tom Downey. Thanks for joining us on today's Cowboys Report. In case you missed it earlier, we've got a bunch of news and rumors items going on with the Cowboys, America's team. We've got 12 of them for you to close out the show today. We'll do rapid fire. All right, Tom. Matt Eberflus, former linebackers coach. He's going to the Colts.
Yep.
It's 4 stars. Dez caught it. It's a fact.
Yeah, we also saw his wife post a photo of them with a big old Colts logo on it. It's going to happen.
Did he decline the Dallas defensive coordinator's job?
Yes, he did. The Cowboys offered hey, look, you can come be our DC and promote Rod Marinelli into assistant head coach role, but Eberflus didn't want to step on Marinelli's toes, which is,
Is that the case?
It is a half-truth. So we're giving that one 2 stars because, yeah, he respects Marinelli, but I also think he just wanted to leave.
All right.
He wanted more job security somewhere else.
Todd Haley's out of a job in Pittsburgh. Could he come to the Cowboys?
No, we'll talk about who they hired as their wide receivers coach. It's only 1 star here because it's not going to happen, but there was some truth to it.
All right, Brice Butler went on the Undisputed last week. He talked to his boy Skip Bayless. Is he leaving the Cowboys?
Pretty
likely.
Pretty likely, but there is a chance because he said he wants to be a starter, but I don't think he's going to get starter job anywhere. This could be a Jermaine Kearse type situation for those of you that follow the Seahawks.
All right, does Tony Romo miss football? Of course he does.
Of course he does, but he's also not missing in the sense that he wants to come back and play. So it's 3 stars, but he doesn't miss waking up and all the rigor that comes with being an NFL quarterback.
All right, it seems pretty likely the Cowboys will have to use the franchise tag on DeMarcus Lawrence, right, Tom?
The other scenario is he gets a contract extension beforehand, but the guess here is that, yes, he gets tagged, then he gets the contract extension.
Do you see the Cowboys letting David Irving walk?
People are talking. Dane Brugler said that there was a real chance it happens, and in the end, it could be that he gets placed with a second-round tender. Someone signs him. Dallas says, okay, give us the second-round pick. People are talking, but I don't know if that's actually going to end up happening.
All right, you know what people aren't talking on except for one publication, and that's the Cowboys cutting Sean Lee because, Tom, that is fake news.
It is not going to happen. I am still angry that someone even suggested the idea. Why would you do that?
All right, Sanjay Lal, he's the next wide receivers coach. We'll calm Tom down. 4 stars there. It's happening. All right, John Pagano, could he be the next linebackers
This
coach?
coming from Todd Archer. He's going to interview. It would make sense. It'd be a really good hire for the Cowboys, but he is going to have quite a bit of interest.
All right, more coaching carousel to wrap it up. Could Ray Horton be the next defensive backs coach?
I would actually be a bit surprised if he's not because Jason Garrett has always wanted Ray Horton. He is a former Cowboys safety himself, and he's got DC experience. That would be a fantastic hire for
All
the
right,
Cowboys.
that is your news and rumors roundup for this Thursday. Today's Cowboys Report is sponsored by The Guild. Visit stayguild.com. Use that promo code CHATSPORTS for 15% off your next stay. It's a new concept in luxury hospitality, luxury living at the best residential buildings in Austin, right here in Dallas, and coming soon to Miami, Florida, and Nashville, Tennessee. Use that promo code CHATSPORTS for 15% off your next stay.
And I did see one comment about Anthony Brown being faster than Byron Jones. From a 40-time perspective, yeah, it's .01. Byron Jones is also quicker in the short areas with the 3-cone drill and the shuttles. So, half a dozen one or the other. But Byron Jones is
that
fast.
Is not
That's
the
main
phrase.
point.
That's not it.
What did I say?
Half dozen
Yeah.
on one.
Half a dozen of one,
Oh,
6 of the
never
other.
mind.
Did I forget
Yeah,
the
you
6
kind
part?
of butchered that. Yeah.
My bad, guys.
All right, for Tom Downey, I am Brett Scott. That's this week's Cowboys Report. Don't forget to like the page if you don't already. We appreciate it. Love all the comments today. We'll talk to you guys next week.